Today's story centers on a mystery that has haunted the world for nearly 3 decades. A young woman, full of life, full of plans, boards a cruise ship with her family for what should have been a joyful vacation, and then vanishes without a sound. No scream, no struggle, no trace, just silence, and a single question that refuses to fade. What really happened to Amy Bradley that night at sea? Welcome back to Criming's Ocultos channel, where real stories reveal real maras. This isn't just the story of a disappearance. It's a story of fear, deception, unanswered clues, and the desperate hope of a family who has spent 30 years searching for the truth. If she's alive, where is she? If she was taken, by whom? And if her story ended that night, why has no evidence ever surfaced? 3 decades later, the truth remains buried somewhere beneath those waves. And tonight, we dive deep into a case that refuses to be forgotten. Everything began as a family vacation. Something simple, something peaceful, something no one expected to end in a mystery that would last for nearly 3 decades. When Ron and Iva Bradley boarded the Royal Caribbean cruise ship Rhapsody of the Seas with their children Amy and Brad, they believed they were leaving behind stress, responsibility, and routine. They were stepping into a world of blue water, sunlight, and island music. But they had no idea that the moment that ship left the dock, their daughter's fate was already drifting into something they could never escape. Amy Lynn Bradley was 23 years old. Strong, independent, athletic, and intelligent. She had just graduated from college, had a good job waiting for her, and was in a stage of life where everything finally felt stable. She was also close to her family, especially her brother Brad. They were more like best friends than siblings. They joked together, danced together, and looked out for each other the entire trip. Nothing about Amy's behavior suggested she was troubled. Nothing suggested she wanted to disappear. She was excited about the cruise. She even brought her new beach clothes, a new camera, and a journal. This was supposed to be a memory they all looked back on with happiness. But on March 23, 1998, that memory began twisting into something darker. The night before she vanished, Amy and Brad joined a party on the ship. They danced at the disco where the ship's band performed. One member of the band, a musician named Alistair Yellow Douglas, spent a lot of time talking with Amy. Many passengers later said they saw them dancing closely and talking in a way that looked friendly, but not unusual. Amy wasn't a shy person. She was social. She liked music. Nothing about her speaking with the crew seemed concerning. Sometime between 1 o'clock and 2 a.m., Amy and Brad left the disco. Brad returned to their cabin first. Amy stayed behind for a few more minutes. Later, crew members would admit that they saw her standing or sitting with Yellow after Brad walked away. Around 3:30 a.m., Brad woke up to see Amy sitting on the cabin balcony. She told him she couldn't sleep, so she stepped outside for fresh air. She was calm, normal, and comfortable. They spoke for a moment, and then Brad went back to sleep, believing everything was fine. At 5:30 a.m., Ron Bradley woke up. He saw Amy still sitting outside on the balcony. She seemed relaxed, looking out at the ocean. Ron didn't want to disturb her, so he quietly went back to sleep. That would be the last confirmed moment anyone in her family ever saw her alive. When Ron woke up a second time, sometime after 6 a.m., the balcony was empty. Amy was gone. But this wasn't the type of gone that made sense. Her shoes were still inside the room. Her cigarettes were still on the table. Her clothes were neatly placed. Nothing suggested she went for a walk, and nothing suggested she planned to leave the ship. Within minutes, panic spread through the family. They searched the hallways. They checked the pool deck. They asked passengers if they had seen her. They reported her missing to the ship's security. But instead of sealing the exits and stopping passengers from leaving the ship, the crew continued preparing for docking in Curaçao. Hundreds of passengers were allowed to walk off the ship freely. And in that critical window of time, if Amy had been taken by someone, passenger or crew, they had the perfect opportunity to escape unnoticed. The Bradley family begged the ship to make an announcement. The ship refused. They said it would cause unnecessary panic. So as passengers left the vessel in large crowds, the Bradleys stood helpless, watching strangers pour past them, not knowing if any of them had Amy. When authorities finally began a search, hours had been lost. The ship scanned the water for a body. They searched common areas. They questioned a few people. But witnesses kept coming forward with confusing, conflicting stories. One passenger claimed she saw a woman resembling Amy on an outdoor deck early that morning, alive, walking with two men. A waitress said she saw Amy eating breakfast with a crew member. Another witness said she saw a woman struggling, being guided or pressured by a man near the exit ramp. All of these sightings were dismissed at the time. The ship focused on the possibility that Amy fell overboard, but her family insisted she was terrified of water. She was a strong swimmer, but she did not like swimming in open ocean. The idea that she accidentally fell seemed impossible to them. What made the situation even stranger was what happened with Yellow, the ship musician. At first, he was helpful, cooperative, and acted shocked. But later, some passengers told investigators that Yellow had behaved oddly after Amy vanished. One woman said Yellow told her he hoped Amy would be found because he had spent a lot of time with her. Another witness claimed Yellow made inappropriate comments about Amy before the disappearance. Then, months later, the Bradleys received shocking news. A Navy officer claimed that during a visit to a Caribbean brothel, a woman grabbed his arm and begged for help. She told him her name was Amy Bradley. She said she was being held and could not leave. The officer said she was quickly pulled away by guards. The officer passed a polygraph test. His story never changed. But investigators could not find the location again. The brothel had reportedly burned down. This wasn't the only reported sighting. A Canadian tourist in Curaçao said she saw a woman resembling Amy on a beach years later. The woman had the same tattoos Amy had, one on her ankle, one on her shoulder blade, one on her hip, and a green gecko tattoo around her navel. The tourist said the woman tried to speak but appeared frightened and silent when a man approached. A female member of the U.S. military later reported seeing Amy in a restroom. She said the woman looked like she was being controlled by two men. She kept trying to say something before one of the men stopped her. That witness also passed a polygraph test. Private investigators Jim Carey and Earl Nance later took over the case. They chased every lead, following stories across multiple islands. They discovered that organized trafficking groups operated heavily in those regions during the late 90s and early 2000s. Several women who had escaped trafficking rings gave descriptions that matched Amy's situation. Taken from a public place, moved between islands, forced into silence, and monitored constantly. Investigators also uncovered an unusual pattern. A mysterious IP address kept accessing online posts and articles about Amy. That IP address traced back to a location near Barbados, appearing to come from a boat or vessel that moved occasionally but stayed mostly offshore. Every time new information about Amy's case appeared online, the same IP address checked it, almost like someone was monitoring the family's actions. Jim Carey and Earl Nance even received emails from someone claiming to know where Amy was being held. At first, the emails seemed credible. The person provided small details that weren't public, but the situation turned into a dangerous scam. The person demanded money before giving more information. When investigators pushed back, the email stopped. The digital trail went cold. As the years passed, the Bradley family did everything possible. They hired experts. They visited islands. They held press conferences. They worked with senators, detectives, and organizations. But every lead either collapsed or ended with uncertainty. Still, the sightings kept coming. In 2005, a photograph surfaced on an adult website. The image showed a woman known as Jazz. Many believed it was Amy. When the Bradleys saw the photo, they were horrified. The woman had Amy's face, Amy's tattoos, Amy's expression. Private investigators believed the image was real, but the website was eventually taken down. No one could confirm who uploaded it, and the trail ended again. Throughout all these years, the FBI kept the case open. They've never closed it. They've interviewed dozens of people, including Yellow, but they've never found any physical evidence. No body. No clothing. No confirmed location. One of the most troubling details came from a crew member years after the disappearance. That person admitted that many crew members had taken pictures of Amy during the cruise. Pictures she didn't know were being taken. Some of those pictures were shown around the ship. Some crew members commented on her body. Others said they had watched her closely. This suggested that Amy may have been targeted before she vanished. The Bradleys believe that someone on the ship may have been involved. They believe someone followed her, watched her habits, and struck when the opportunity appeared. If Amy was taken from the ship, it could not have been done without help. Cruise ships are controlled environments. People don't just walk away unnoticed. Someone had to plan it. Someone had to know how to avoid security systems, cameras, and staff. Over the years, the family has learned that crimes on cruise ships are more common than people think. Many cases go unreported or unresolved. Jurisdiction issues make investigations difficult, and crew members sometimes work under different nationalities, different contracts, and different rules. The Bradleys also learned something even more disturbing. Organized trafficking rings sometimes operate around Caribbean ports. Women are abducted, drugged, and transported through systems that move them from island to island, making them nearly impossible to trace. If Amy fell into such a ring, her disappearance may have been part of something far more dangerous and organized than anyone expected. Even today, several witnesses still insist that Amy was alive long after that cruise ship docked. They describe a woman who looked scared, controlled, and unable to escape. They describe tattoos that matched her perfectly. They describe behavior that seemed like she was trying to signal for help. But every reported sighting ends the same way, without proof. The Bradley family continues to fight. They've spent their lives searching, sacrificing, and pushing authorities to investigate every angle. They've never given up hope. Not even after 26 years. Not even after the world moved on and the case grew cold. They believe Amy may still be alive. They believe someone, somewhere, knows the truth. And they believe that one day, someone will finally break the silence. As long as this case remains open, as long as sightings continue, the possibility of Amy being alive will always exist. And that possibility is what keeps her family fighting for answers. The mystery of Amy Bradley is not just a disappearance. It's a story of a family that refuses to quit. A story of missed opportunities, failed procedures, suspicious behavior, and heartbreaking hope. It's a story that could still have a different ending. If the right person comes forward, if the right clue is uncovered, if the right moment arrives. Until then, Amy Lynn Bradley remains missing. Her case continues to haunt investigators, travelers, and families around the world. And the question that has echoed for 27 years still remains. Is Amy Bradley out there waiting to be found? Or did her story end somewhere no one saw? Either way, the search continues as the years passed. The mystery of Amy Bradley only grew deeper. Every lead brought hope, and every dead end tore another piece from a family already living in an endless nightmare. Her parents, Ron and Iva, have spent decades chasing shadows, faces in crowds, voices on phone calls, tips from islands they had never heard of. Each clue carried the same fragile possibility. Maybe this time, maybe this is her. Investigators admit that the case is unlike any they've seen. Too many sightings, too many coincidences, and too many people insisting they encountered a frightened young woman who looked exactly like Amy. Yet, after thousands of interviews, searches, and investigations stretching across several countries, no undeniable proof has ever surfaced. Some believe she was taken off that ship within hours. Others insist she may have survived for years under someone else's control. And then there are those who think she never left the water at all. But in a case filled with uncertainty, one thing remains clear. There is no evidence that Amy walked away on her own. Something happened to her that night, something deliberate, and something still hidden. Her family continues to fight, refusing to let her fade into another forgotten headline. They keep her story alive so that one day, one person with one crucial piece of information might finally speak up. Because that's all it takes. One witness, one confession, one discovery. Until then, Amy's case remains suspended between hope and heartbreak. A family waits, a mystery lingers, and the ocean keeps its secrets close. Thank you for watching Crime's Ocultos. If you want more real cases, more stories that demand to be heard, subscribe to the channel. Because justice begins with awareness, and awareness begins here.